My phone would not stop buzzing, not for 1 minute, not even when I held my breath and stared at the screen like it could bite me. One missed call became 10, then 30, then 50, and when I finally looked up at the clock, I saw it had been 20 hours since my daughter's message. 20 hours since she wrote, "Don't come to my wedding, you're no longer my family." I had replied with only one word, "Understood." Then I made one call. Now my phone showed 74 missed calls, and the newest message wasn't from her. It was from a number I did not know. It said, "Sir, please, you need to pick up. This is getting out of control." My hands were shaking, not because I was scared of losing a wedding invite, but because I knew something much bigger had just cracked open. And once the truth comes out, families do not stay the same. If I answered the next call, would I lose my daughter forever, or would I finally save her from something she could not see? I am Daniel, and I have been a father for 26 years. I have made plenty mistakes, but I have never stopped loving my child. My daughter's name is Lena. She is smart, strong, and when she smiles, it feels like the sun remembered my name. So when her text came in the night before, sharp like a slap, it did not feel real. I was sitting in my small living room, the TV on but not really playing in my mind. I had just finished washing dishes. My wife Lena's mom died 5 years ago. After that, the house became too quiet. I tried to fill it with simple routines. Work, food, sleep. I did not drink much. I did not go out much. I just tried to stay steady. The message popped up at 10:18 p.m. "Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family." No greeting. No explanation. Just that. At first, I thought her phone was hacked, or she was angry and sent it to the wrong person. I called her right away. It rang and rang. No answer. I texted back, "Lena, what is this? Call me." No reply. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. I tried again. Nothing. My chest felt tight, like someone wrapped a belt around it. This was my child. Even when she was little and mad, she always came back. Even when she moved out, even when she got busy, she always called me Dad. Then I remembered the last conversation we had 2 days earlier. I had tried to ask a simple question about her fiancé, Mason. "I just want to understand," I told her. "He seems nice, but he keeps rushing things. Why is the wedding so soon?" Lena's voice had gone cold. "Dad, you always do this. You always think you know better. Mason is good to me." "I'm not trying to control you," I said. "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protecting," she snapped. "I need support." That call ended badly, but I never imagined it would turn into a message like this. I sat there staring at the words. Then slowly another memory came. A memory of my wife, Lena's mom, telling me something important before she passed. "Daniel," she said, holding my hand in the hospital bed, "if anything ever feels wrong with Lena, do not stay silent. Silence is what bad people love." That night the message felt wrong. Not just mean, but wrong. Like it was written by someone trying to cut me out fast. So I did the one thing I knew how to do. I called one person. Her name was Marla Green. She was not family. She was not even a close friend. She was my old coworker from years ago, a calm woman with sharp eyes, the kind of person who notices things others miss. She had also become a wedding planner after leaving our office. I had met Mason through Lena only twice. But Marla had met him more than that, because Lena hired Marla's company to handle parts of the wedding. 2 weeks earlier, Marla had casually said something that stayed in my mind. "Your daughter seems happy," she told me when we ran into each other at a grocery store. "But her fiancé is intense." "Intense?" I asked. She shrugged. "The kind of intense that smiles while pushing." That was all she said, but I remembered it. So I called Marla at 10:31 p.m. and she answered on the third ring. "Daniel," she said, surprised, "is everything okay?" I did not cry, I did not yell, I just read her the message. There was a pause and then her voice changed, became serious. "Daniel," she said quietly, "I was hoping you would call me." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I can't say everything by phone," she said, "but your daughter is in a situation. Mason has been hiding things, and he has been using the wedding like a shield." My mouth went dry. "Hiding what?" Marla exhaled. "Money, pressure, paperwork, and he has been trying very hard to keep you away." I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. "Why would he do that?" "Because you are the one person who could stop it," she said. "Daniel, I need you to listen. If Lena suddenly cut you off, it might not be her choice." My hands were cold. "Then what do I do?" Marla didn't hesitate. Tell me one thing, did you ever pay for anything in this wedding? Even a deposit, even one check, I swallowed. Yes, I helped with the venue deposit. Lena said she would pay me back. Marla's voice was firm. Then you have a right to ask questions, and I have a duty to protect my client, your daughter, but Mason has been blocking me. If you want to help Lena, you need to take action before morning. What action? I asked. Call your bank. Freeze anything connected to your name. And Daniel, she said, do not ignore your instincts. Mason is moving fast for a reason. That was the one call. I called my bank right after. Then I sat on the couch staring at my phone like it was a ticking clock. In the early morning, the missed calls started. At first, one from Lena. I didn't answer because my head was spinning and I needed to be careful. Then two more. Then Mason. Then Lena again. Then Lena's aunt. Then numbers I did not recognize. By afternoon, the count was at 74, and in between the calls, messages came in. Dad, please answer. Why are you doing this? You're embarrassing us. You're ruining everything. Then the unknown number, sir, please pick up. This is getting out of control. I stared at the screen and finally understood something painful. Whatever I had stepped into, it was not just about a wedding invite. It was a fight over control. I took a slow breath, pressed call back on the unknown number, and whispered to myself, please, God, let me reach my daughter before it's too late. The line connected, and the first voice I heard was not Lena's. It was a man's voice, shaky and urgent. Mr. Daniel, he said, this is the venue manager. There's a problem with your daughter's wedding, a big problem, and Mason is here screaming that you sabotaged them. My heart pounded. What problem? The manager swallowed hard. Sir, the deposit you paid was used to open a credit line in your name, and now the account is flagged for fraud. My whole body went still. Fraud. That word hit like thunder. And right then, in the background of the call, I heard Lena's voice crying, Dad, what did you do? I closed my eyes, feeling the cliff edge under my feet, and I knew the next thing I said could either break her or save her. I wanted to answer Lena right away. I wanted to shout. I did nothing. But I forced my voice to stay calm because panic makes everything worse. Lena, I said, slow and clear, listen to me. I did not do this. I am trying to understand what happened, okay? She sounded like she was holding her breath between sobs. They said you froze the money. They said you called the bank and now everything is shut down. Mason is saying you're trying to ruin my life. I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking, but my mind was sharpening like a knife coming out of a cover. Lena, I repeated, I froze the accounts connected to my name because Marla said something wasn't right. That is all I did. I did not open any credit line. I did not sign any loan. I did not commit fraud. There was a silence, and then Mason's voice came on, loud and angry, like he grabbed the phone. You're lying, he snapped. You jealous old man. You can't stand your daughter moving on. You always had to control her, and now you're doing this because you can't be the center of her life. I recognized that tone, not just anger. It was the tone of someone trying to cover fear with noise. Mason, I said, put Lena back on the phone. No, he barked. You don't get to talk to her. You're not welcome. You're not family. My throat tightened. You're not the one who decides that, he laughed, sharp and mean. Actually, I am, because I'm her husband tomorrow, not you. The venue manager's voice cut in, nervous. Sir, please, this is not helping. We need clarification. The bank called us. They said the deposit account is tied to a flagged identity action. I stepped away from the window. Like moving could help me think. Manager, I said, tell me exactly what happened. He hesitated, then spoke. 2 weeks ago, someone came in to update billing. They had copies of your ID and they had your signature on a form. They opened a credit line under your name to cover some wedding costs. It was approved. Then this morning, the bank flagged it because the signature doesn't match their records. Now they're calling it possible fraud. My stomach turned, slow and heavy. Someone had my ID. Someone had my signature, and I knew exactly who could have gotten those things. Only a few months earlier, Lena had asked me for a copy of my ID. Dad, she said, the venue is offering a family discount if a parent is on file. It's just for paperwork. I had trusted her. I emailed it. I didn't think twice. Now my chest felt sick. Lena, I said, fighting to keep my voice gentle, did you give Mason access to your email? Her breathing changed. Why would I do that? Did he ever say he needed it? I asked. There was a long pause, too long. Then she whispered he wanted to help. He said he could handle the vendors. I've been so tired, Dad. Work has been hard. He kept saying, let me take the pressure. That was the first crack in her certainty, and I held on to it carefully. "Okay," I said. "That matters. Lena, I need you to leave that room. Walk outside away from him and call me back on your own phone." Mason snapped again. "Stop manipulating her." But Lena's voice rose, shaky but stronger. "Mason, give me my phone." I heard scuffling like chairs moving. Then Lena cried out, "Stop!" My blood went cold. "Lena," I shouted, "are you okay?" Then the call ended, just dead silence. For a second I stood frozen. Then I moved. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, and I ran to my car. I did not even think. I just drove toward the venue because my daughter was there and I could not sit at home while her voice disappeared. On the way, I called Marla again. She answered quickly. "Daniel," she said, "I heard. The venue called me too." "Marla," I said, "tell me everything you know right now." She didn't waste time. "Mason has been telling vendors to send invoices to a different email," she said. "He claimed Lena was overwhelmed. He also tried to rush payments. He pushed for extra upgrades, extra costs, like he wanted the total to grow fast." "Why?" I asked. Marla's voice was low. "Because he was not planning to pay it with his money. He was planning to pay it with yours." I gripped the steering wheel. "How could he even do that?" "Daniel," she said, "he has copies of your ID. He has your deposit history, and if he forged your signature, he could try to open accounts. People do this. It's financial abuse." My mouth tasted bitter. "And Lena?" "She may not know," Marla said. "Or she may know part of it and is too ashamed to tell you. Either way, she's trapped, and he's isolating her from you because you are the person who would ask questions." I pulled into a red light, breathing hard. "So what do I do?" I asked. Marla's answer was firm. "You get to the venue, you make sure Lena is safe. You do not fight Mason with fists, you fight with facts. Bring a witness, Daniel, do not go alone." I thought of one person. My brother, Uncle Ron. Lena's favorite uncle. The man who always showed up calm, even in storms. I called him with one sentence. "Ron," I said, "Lena needs us. Come with me right now." He didn't ask why. He just said, "On my way." When I reached the venue, the parking lot was full of people. Not wedding guests. Staff, vendors, and a few family members who looked confused, like they were watching a fire start in slow motion. Inside, I saw Lena near the hallway, her face wet, her makeup smudged, her hands clutching her phone like a lifeline. Mason stood close to her, too close, his hand on her elbow like he owned her. When Lena saw me, she flinched, like she didn't know if she should run toward me or away from me. Mason stepped forward fast. "You have nerve showing up," he hissed. I held my hands open, showing I wasn't here to fight. "I'm here to speak to my daughter." Lena whispered, "Dad." They said the bank might involve the police. My heart broke at the fear in her eyes. I looked at Mason and said very clearly, "If anyone used my identity, the police should be involved." Mason's eyes flashed. "You wouldn't." I leaned in, voice low. "Try me." That's when the venue manager walked over with a folder and said, "Mr. Daniel, we have a copy of the form with the signature. We need you to confirm if this is yours." He opened the folder and showed me the paper. My name was there. My address was there. My signature was there, but it was not my signature. It was close but wrong, like a kid tracing someone's handwriting. I looked at Lena, then I looked at Mason, and I saw it just for a second, the tiny panic behind his angry face. I took a slow breath and said the words that changed everything. "That signature is fake and I can prove it." Mason laughed too loudly. "Prove it then." I nodded and I held up my phone. "I already called my lawyer," I said. "And I already requested the bank's signature comparison records. They're on the way here." Lena's eyes widened. "Dad, you called a lawyer?" "Yes," I said gently, "because something is very wrong, and I'm not letting anyone use you or use me and walk away." Mason's smile vanished. He grabbed Lena's wrist and said, "We're leaving." Lena jerked back. "Stop. You're hurting me." And right then, Uncle Ron walked in through the door, saw Lena's face, saw Mason's grip, and his voice filled the room like thunder. "Take your hands off my niece." Mason froze. Everyone froze, and Lena, shaking, whispered the sentence that made my stomach drop. "Dad," she said, "Mason told me you were the one stealing money from Mom's old savings account." I felt the room spin, because my wife's savings account was not just money. It was the account tied to the trust my wife left for Lena. And if Mason was touching that, then the wedding was only the surface of something much darker. When Lena said that, I felt like the floor moved under me. For a second, I could not speak. "Mason told you what?" I asked quietly. Lena's eyes were full of confusion and fear. He said you were hiding money. He said you didn't want me to have it. He said you were keeping Mom's savings for yourself. Uncle Ron's face went hard. That's a lie. Mason stepped forward, putting on a sad face now like he was the victim. It's not a lie. Lena, tell them what you saw. Lena swallowed. He showed me papers. He said the trust was supposed to be mine already. He said Dad was delaying it. I turned to Mason. Where did you get those papers? Mason shrugged. From Lena, it's her account. That account was created when Lena was 16, I said. It's a legal trust. It releases when she turns 27. Lena is 26. Lena blinked. What? I softened my voice. Sweetheart, your mom did that to protect you. She wanted to make sure no one could push you into giving away your future before you were ready. Mason's jaw tightened. So you admit you control it? I shook my head. I don't control it, the trust controls it. I'm only a trustee until it releases, which means I follow the rules your mother set. It's not my money. Lena's mouth opened slightly. Mason told me it was already mine and you were keeping it. Mason jumped in fast. Because it should be yours. He's treating you like a child. Uncle Ron stepped closer. No, Mason, you're treating her like a wallet. The room got loud, people whispered. The venue manager backed away like he didn't want trouble. I looked at Lena again. Lena, I need you to think. Has Mason been asking about your mom's account a lot? Lena hesitated. He asked questions. He said we needed a strong start. He said a wedding is an investment. And did he ask you to keep secrets from me? I asked. Lena's eyes filled again. He said you would try to stop us. I nodded slowly. Because I would ask questions, and questions are the enemy of lies. Mason's face changed, anger rising again. Enough, we're done. Lena, come on. He reached for her again. Uncle Ron moved between them, calm but solid. No, Mason sneered. Who are you to stop me? Ron's voice was low. I'm the man who watched this girl grow up, and I'm the man who knows when someone is trying to trap her. Lena's hands trembled. Mason, why did you open a credit line in Dad's name? Mason laughed, but it sounded strained. I didn't. Your dad is playing games. He's embarrassed he's not invited. Lena looked at me. Dad, did you really call the bank? Yes, I said. Because you told me I wasn't family in a text and I knew something was wrong. I froze what I could freeze so no one could move money using my name. And now the bank is saying someone forged my signature. Lena stared at Mason. Did you do that? Mason's eyes narrowed. You're really going to believe him over me? That sentence was a trap. It wasn't an answer, it was pressure. And Lena, for the first time, stepped back from him. I'm asking you, she said, voice shaking but firm. Did you do it? Mason didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the venue manager. Cancel everything, he snapped. We're going to another place. We'll sue this guy. The manager raised his hands. Sir, we can't. The account is frozen and flagged. Until it's cleared, we cannot proceed. Mason's face went red. Then his phone buzzed and he checked it and his expression changed again like a mask slipping. I watched him. I watched the way his fingers tightened on the phone. Who is that? I asked. He shoved it in his pocket. No one. Marla walked in then, carrying a small laptop and a folder. Her eyes locked on Mason like she had been waiting for this moment. Actually, Marla said, loud enough for everyone to hear, it's someone. It's the bank's fraud department, and I know because they called me too. Mason snapped. You're just a planner. Stay out of this. Marla didn't blink. I'm also a licensed coordinator, and I report fraud when I see it. Mason, you used my vendor contacts to request invoices, and you tried to change payment details without Lena's approval. Lena's voice went small. Mason, what did you do? Mason leaned into Lena, lowering his voice like he wanted to pull her back into his control. Baby, they're teaming up on me. Your dad hates me. Marla hates me. They want you alone. Lena looked like she might break, so I did something I hadn't done in years. I told Lena the full truth about my fear. Lena, I said, I don't hate Mason because he's marrying you. I'm scared of him because he makes you smaller. He makes you doubt yourself. He makes you hide things. That's not love. Lena swallowed hard. And then Mason did something that proved my point. He smiled, cold and quick, and said, Fine, you want truth, here's truth. The wedding doesn't happen without money. Your dad's money, your mom's money. And if you don't pick a side right now, Lena, I'm walking. Lena stared at him like she didn't know who he was anymore. That was the moment the room changed, because he said it out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. He admitted money was the center. Lena's voice came out broken. So You wanted me to cut my dad off so you could get the trust. Mason's eyes flashed. I wanted us to start our life right. He's standing in the way. Uncle Ron muttered, "There it is." Lena backed away. "No, you're the one standing in my way." Mason's face twisted and he grabbed his coat. "You'll regret this." Then he turned to leave, but Marla stepped forward and said, "You might want to stay, Mason, because the police are on their way to take a statement." Mason froze at the door, and Lena's knees went weak as she whispered, "Police." I reached out, steadying her. "Yes, because someone tried to steal using my identity, and if it was Mason, we deal with it the right way." Mason turned slowly, his eyes sharp like glass. "You call the cops," he said softly, "and I'll make sure Lena learns what you really did with her mom's money." My heart dropped again, because he was threatening me with something, and the scary part was not his voice. The scary part was that Lena looked confused, like there was still a lie inside her head, planted deep. And Mason was counting on that lie to save him. The police arrived, and everything became louder and colder at the same time. Two officers walked in, calm but alert. People stepped back. The venue manager spoke quickly. Marla handed over her folder. Mason kept his face smooth like he had practiced this. Lena stood beside me, trembling. I kept one hand lightly on her shoulder, not to hold her but to remind her she was not alone. One officer, Officer Reyes, asked me to confirm my identity. I did. He asked me if I signed the credit line form. I said no. He asked Mason if he had any involvement. Mason said absolutely not. Then Mason did what people like him always do when they feel cornered. He tried to flip the story. "This is about control," Mason told Officer Reyes. "Her father doesn't want her to marry me. He's using the police to scare us." Officer Reyes nodded like he'd heard it before. "We're not here for feelings, we're here for facts." Marla spoke next. Calm, clear. "Mason requested vendor invoices be sent to an email that was not Lena's. He tried to approve extra expenses without Lena present. And he presented paperwork with Mr. Daniel's signature that appears forged." Officer Reyes looked at Mason. "Do you have a copy of the email requests?" Mason shrugged. "She's lying." Marla opened her laptop and turned it around. "Here, time-stamped, multiple vendors." Mason's eyes flicked to Lena, quick and warning. Lena noticed, and that was important. Because Lena was finally seeing the pattern, the little silent pressure, the way Mason always tried to guide her emotions like a steering wheel. Officer Reyes asked Lena, "Miss, did you authorize any credit line in your father's name?" Lena shook her head, tears falling. "No." The other officer, Officer Chen, asked, "Did you provide your father's ID to anyone?" Lena hesitated. She looked at me. I nodded gently, telling her it was okay to tell the truth. "Yes," she whispered. "I had it in my email. Mason had access to my laptop. He said he was helping." Mason snapped, "Because I was helping." Officer Chen raised a hand. "Sir, please." Then Officer Reyes asked Lena something that made her face go pale. "Did you send the text to your father telling him not to come to your wedding?" Lena swallowed. "Yes, but what?" Reyes asked. Lena's voice got small. "Mason wrote it. He told me to send it. He said my dad would ruin the wedding. He said if Dad showed up, Dad would try to take over and make it about him." Officer Reyes nodded slowly. "So you sent it under pressure?" Lena's eyes filled. "Yes." Mason stepped forward. "That's not pressure, that's advice. She asked me what to do." Lena turned to him, shaking. "No, Mason, you told me if you love me, you'll do this." Silence hit the room. Even the venue manager stopped moving. Mason's face tightened. "Lena, don't do this." Lena's voice rose, not loud but clear. "You made me choose between my dad and you. You made me feel guilty for loving my own family." And then Mason played his final card, the threat he promised. He pointed at me and said, "Ask him about your mom's money. Ask him why it's locked. Ask him what he's been doing with it." Lena looked at me, pain and fear mixing. "Dad, tell me, please." I could have gotten defensive. I could have said, "How dare you question me?" But I remembered what my wife said about silence. Silence helps bad people. So I told Lena everything right there in front of everyone, even though it hurt. "Your mom had a savings account," I said. "When she got sick, she was scared someone would take it from you. She set up a trust with a lawyer. Trust releases when you turn 27. You are 26. That is why the money isn't available yet." Lena blinked. "Why didn't you tell me that?" "I did," I said softly. 3 years ago, you were busy and you said you'd deal with it later. I didn't push because I didn't want money to become a fight between us." Uncle Ron nodded. That's true, I was there. Marla added, I've seen the trust paperwork. Daniel showed it to me when he asked for advice. Lena's shoulders sagged. So, Mason lied. Mason shook his head, trying to smile again. No, I was trying to help you claim what's yours. Officer Reyes stepped forward. Sir, do you have any documentation supporting your claim that the trust is being misused? Mason hesitated. I have papers. Where did you get them? Reyes asked. Mason's eyes darted. Online. Officer Chen lifted a brow. Online, that's not a real answer. Mason's voice rose. This is ridiculous. Officer Reyes held out a hand. We need your phone and any devices used to submit the credit line request. If you refuse, we will note that. Mason backed up. No, you can't just take my phone. Officer Ray's tone stayed calm. We can with probable cause and multiple witnesses, sir. Hand it over. Mason looked around like he expected Lena to save him. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, give it to them. Mason's face went hard. After everything I did for you, Lena's tears fell. You didn't do it for me. You did it for money. That was the moment Mason realized he was losing control. He turned, shoved past a chair, and bolted for the door. Officer Chen moved fast. Stop! Mason pushed the door open and ran. The officers chased him. Everyone started shouting at once. Lena grabbed my arm, nails digging into my sleeve. Dad, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I pulled her into a careful hug, not squeezing too hard, just holding steady like a wall. It's okay, I said, even though my heart was still racing. We're going to get through this. But then Marla's phone buzzed. She looked at it and her face changed. Daniel, she said, voice low, we have another problem. What? I asked. Marla swallowed. One of the vendors just forwarded an email Mason sent last night. My blood ran cold. What does it say? Marla turned her screen toward me and I saw the subject line. Emergency, release trust funds today. My daughter's face drained of color, because Mason wasn't just trying to steal my identity. He was trying to break into the one thing my wife left behind to protect Lena's future, and now he was running. By the next morning, Lena was sitting at my kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket like she was trying to hold herself together. Her eyes were swollen from crying. My house, the quiet house, felt full again, but not in a happy way. It felt like the air itself was heavy. Uncle Ron sat across from her, hands folded. Marla sat beside me with her laptop open, helping us keep track of everything. We had a plan now, and plans make fear smaller. Here is what happened clearly, so nobody has to guess. Mason was involved in debt. He had borrowed money from people who did not care about his feelings, only repayment. Lena did not know the full truth. She knew he had money stress, but he always turned it into a story about building a future together. He talked big, he promised big, he smiled big, but behind the smile he was drowning. When Mason met Lena, he saw something else. He saw my wife's old savings, the trust. He found out about it because Lena talked about her mom and mentioned, casually, that there's something mom left for me that dad manages. Mason heard the words left for me and dad manages, and he turned it into a target. He started asking questions in small ways. How much is it? When do you get it? Why does your dad still control it? Do you trust him? At first, Lena defended me, but Mason was patient. He repeated doubts again and again. He used love as a rope. If you really love me, you'll believe me. If you choose your dad over me, what does that say about our marriage? That is how emotional control works. It doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like sweet pressure. Mason also rushed the wedding because he needed a reason to move money fast. A wedding is expensive. People expect big payments. It creates chaos, and chaos is good for scams because nobody has time to slow down and check facts. He used Lena's laptop. He got access to her email. He took the copy of my ID Lena had saved. He copied it. He used it to update billing at the venue, then opened a credit line in my name with a forged signature. He also tried to move vendor payments through new channels, hopping to redirect money, then blame confusion. He was building a web where he could say, it's all just wedding stress, while stealing right under everyone's noses. Then he needed one more thing. He needed me out of the picture, because I was the person who would notice. So he pushed Lena to text me that cruel message. He wanted me cut off, embarrassed, and silent. He wanted me too hurt to fight back. But I didn't stay silent. I called Marla. That one call started the collapse of Mason's plan, because Marla had already noticed his behavior, the rushed upgrades, the payment changes, the way he tried to speak for Lena. When I froze my accounts connected to my name, the bank's system caught the mismatch. That triggered the fraud flag. That is why everything blew up within 20 hours. Now, about Mason running. The police did catch him later that day. He didn't get far. He tried to hide at a friend's apartment. But his phone records, emails, and the vendor messages were enough for the police to act. When officers checked his phone, they found the email Marla saw, the one asking to release trust funds today, and they found messages between Mason and a person named Derek, who was pressuring him for money. That is when the full motive became clear. Mason was not stealing because he was bored. He was stealing because he was desperate, and desperate people make dangerous choices, but desperation does not excuse betrayal. Lena learned something hard. She learned that love does not demand isolation. Love does not say, cut off your family to prove you care. Love does not use guilt as a weapon. Love does not use someone's grief, like her grief for her mom, as a key to open a lock. When Lena saw the evidence, she broke down in my kitchen and said, "Dad, I feel so stupid." I held her hands and said, "You are not stupid, you were trusting, and someone used your trust." Then she asked the question that hurt both of us. "Dad," she whispered, "why didn't you fight harder when I pulled away?" I took a breath. "Because I was scared that pushing would push you farther, but I learned something too. Silence doesn't protect love, truth protects love." Lena cried again, but this time it wasn't just fear, it was release. We did the next steps, simple and clear. We met with the lawyer who handled the trust. The lawyer explained again that the trust would release at 27, exactly as my wife wanted. The lawyer also added extra protection, making it harder for anyone to even request changes without Lena present in person with ID. We contacted the bank and cleared my name officially. The fraud report stayed open against Mason, not against me. The venue removed the credit line and refunded what could be refunded. Some vendor deposits were lost, but Lena said, "Money is replaceable, my life is." She canceled the wedding, not postponed, canceled. That choice was hard because weddings are public and people talk. Lena worried about being judged, but Uncle Ron said something that stayed with her. "Let them talk," he said. "Talking won't break you, lying to yourself will." A few weeks later, Lena and I visited my wife's grave together. Lena placed flowers down and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I almost let someone steal your gift." I stood beside her and said, "Your mom didn't just leave money. She left a plan to protect you, and it worked." Lena looked at me and said, "It worked because you didn't stay quiet." That is the life lesson of this story, and it's simple enough for anyone to understand. When something feels wrong, pay attention. When someone tries to isolate you from the people who truly love you, that is a warning sign. When a person uses love like a leash, it is not love. And when you have the chance to speak truth, do it kindly, but do it clearly. Because silence can feel peaceful in the moment, but it can cost you everything later. In the end, Lena didn't just lose a fiancé. She got herself back. And I didn't get revenge by shouting or hurting anyone. I got revenge by refusing to be erased. I got revenge by telling the truth, by protecting my name, and by helping my daughter see the trap before it closed. One evening, months later, Lena came to my house with a small cake and 2 forks. "No big reason," she said. "I just wanted to eat with my dad." We sat at the table, the same table where she once trembled in fear. She smiled softly and said, "I used to think being grown meant I didn't need you." I shook my head. "Being grown means you know who is safe," she nodded. "You're safe." And for the first time in a long time, the quiet house didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. It felt like healing.